I'm Dr. Jim Zoval. You're about to watch one of my video lectures. If you like this video and would like to get videos for your entire General Organic and Biochemistry course, you can do so at www.zovallearning.com. I'll give you more information about that at the end of this video. Carbohydrates are quite abundant in nature. More than half of the carbon found in living organisms is contained in carbohydrate molecules, most of which are contained in plants. The primary reason for such an abundance is that a carbohydrate is produced by a series of chemical reactions that we call photosynthesis. Energy from sunlight is used by plants to provide energy to drive the photosynthesis process. In this process, carbon dioxide and water are converted to oxygen gas and a carbohydrate called glucose. Plants can then use glucose to produce the ATP molecules that are needed to do the work that's necessary for life. Plants store excess glucose as starch, a carbohydrate, for later use. Animals obtain energy that's stored in starch by eating plants or by eating animals that ate plants or had herbivores in their food chain. So in one sense, we're all solar powered. Carbohydrates are also referred to as sugars or saccharides. We're all familiar with table sugar, which is a particular carbohydrate molecule. These videos are made to be viewed while using fill-in lecture notes. The pause in the audio is to give students time to complete the lecture notes fill-in. The lecture notes can be downloaded, free of charge, at www.zovallearning.com. In this chapter, you'll learn the details of carbohydrate chemistry. Then in Chapter 15, our last chapter, you'll learn how the potential energy in glucose or starch is eventually used to do physical work or drive cellular processes that require energy. Monosaccharides are the smallest carbohydrates and serve as building blocks of larger carbohydrates. They're also referred to as simple sugars. Monosaccharides have the general chemical formula of CnH2ON, where N, the number of carbon atoms, can be 3 to 7. They are polyhydroxyl aldehydes or ketones. Monosaccharides contain either an aldehyde group or a ketone bonding pattern. Monosaccharides contain more than one hydroxyl group. That's why we say polyhydroxyl. A monosaccharide that contains an aldehyde group is called an aldose. You're looking at the general form of an aldose. Notice that the group in the parentheses can repeat. X is the number of times that group repeats. For example, if X equals 3, the structure of the aldose is shown on the bottom left. A monosaccharide that contains the ketone bonding pattern is called a ketose. You're looking at the general form of a ketose here. Note that the group in the parentheses can repeat. For example, if X equals 3, the resulting ketose structure would be the one you see on the bottom right here. Try a problem. Classify each of the following monosaccharides as either an aldose or a ketose. Click pause and work on the problem now. Check your answer. The molecule in part A is an aldose. Notice the aldehyde group is present. The molecule in part B is a ketose. Note the ketone bonding pattern here. The molecule in part C is an aldose because of the presence of the aldehyde group. Monosaccharides can be classified according to the number of carbons they contain. If a monosaccharide has 3 carbons, then it's called a triose. One with 4 carbons is called a tetrose. One with 5 carbons is called a pentose. One with 6 carbons is called a hexose. And one with 7 carbons is called a heptose. A monosaccharide may also be classified by both the number of carbons and whether it's an aldose or a ketose. This is done by using the prefix aldo for aldoses or keto for ketoses in front of triose, tetrose, pentose, hexose, or heptose. For example, an aldose that contains 5 carbons is an aldopentose. Check your understanding of this by working on a problem. Classify each of the following monosaccharides using the prefix aldo for aldoses or keto for ketoses in front of triose, tetrose, pentose, hexose, or heptose. Click pause and work on the problem now. Check your answer. The molecule in part A has an aldehyde group and contains 4 carbons, therefore it's an aldotetrose. The molecule in part B contains the ketone bonding pattern and 4 carbons, therefore it's a ketotetrose. The molecule in part C contains an aldehyde group and has 7 carbons, therefore it's an aldoheptose. You'll have a lot of people, self-appointed nutrition experts. They are a nutrition expert because they proclaim themselves to be one. Some people actually have degrees in them, but most people who give you nutritional advice may have limited backgrounds in chemistry, in nutrition, in science, and scientific method. They'll say carbohydrates are, quote, bad, or carbohydrates are good, or something like this. And so, most of them, I doubt, would really know the technical chemical definition of what a carbohydrate is. They might say something like, well, it's bread, or it's, rice and grains and things like that. If you ask them, try it next time, they say, no, carbohydrates are really bad for you. You shouldn't eat a lot of them. Go, oh, really? Thanks for telling me that. That's awesome to know. What's a carbohydrate? And see what they say. See if they say, I got to take this phone call. Or if they say, well, those would be polyhydroxyl aldehydes or ketones. If they say that, if they say those are polyhydroxyl aldehydes or ketones, you might want to pay a little bit of attention to what they say after that. Maybe right or wrong, but at least they're somewhat credible that they know what they're talking about. One of the things I'd like to have as an educational goal in this class, and unfortunately it's kind of hard to test you on. I like to be able to set an educational goal, present my material to facilitate your learning that educational goal, then design an exam question that examines whether you got that educational goal or not. This one's kind of hard to do, this educational goal that I'll tell you about. I'd like you guys to kind of have your BS filter. So when someone tells you something, what do we believe? How do we know it's true? When they say carbohydrates are bad for you, what does it even mean, bad? What study have you seen that in? What study that did a placebo where the person thought they were getting the treatment, and another group that did get the treatment, and then they made some measurable thing that they measured to see, and this measurable is what they'd call good or bad, right? That's how we do science. And even then, if you find one study, sometimes one study doesn't answer a question. It's good to have this study repeated. After these studies are repeated, then that information sometimes winds up in textbooks. Most of the time you could trust what you read in textbook because it's published and it's peer-reviewed. It gets sent out to a bunch of experts in the field. But when can you start to, okay, I'm gonna hang my hat on this. I'm gonna believe. Start to believe when you see the studies, when you see the data. Until then, it's gossip. Until then, it might as well just be some graffiti written on a wall. You can get your entire general, organic, and biochemistry course as a series of video lectures. The rental period is for 1 year, so you'll have these video lectures for the entire term of the course. You could watch the videos whenever and however many times you wish. I survey my students, and they prefer these video lectures over the textbook by a ratio of about 10-to-1. Fill-in lecture notes and an electronic version of my textbook are available free of charge at the website. To get more information or to get the videos, free textbook, and free lecture notes, visit my website at www.zovallearning.com.